Ladies and gentlemen, Boubacar Goumoui, aka the Angel of Death, they call him Boubacar, one of the notorious commander in Mali, in the northwest of Menaka, who earned this reputation not by just mere words. He earned this reputation in blood and bones. They call him the Angel of Death for a reason. Ladies and gentlemen, his two lieutenants, Ismail and Ahmed, they earned their reputation in cold-blooded demonstration. Ladies and gentlemen, Mali just ended Boubacar Goumoui. Now I'm going to give you a story before the stoppage of Boubacar Goumoui, because they closed the show by stoppage. This is the first time we are seeing the coalition forces of the AES in operation. In this particular episode, I'm going to be giving you two different victories that just kick-started the operation of the AES forces. These guys have actually proved that they are combatants. And this particular operation is just a signature. It's the best way for you to sign in. What other way will you sign in? But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, you already know what it is. Whenever I come on my tactical gear, you know the vultures are about to eat. It's time to eat, ladies and gentlemen. So without no further ado, let's proceed. So, who is Boubacar Goumoui? Boubacar Goumoui is the man you can see on the video right there. A notorious DAESH commander who operates both the ISSP, that's the Islamic State in Sahel province, and also in some rights, he commands some battalion of jihadist terror sect. He is notorious and he does a lot of training, he does a lot of logistics, and in terms of procurement of hard drug and medication, Boubacar Goumoui is in charge. Why did they put Boubacar Goumoui in this strategic position? Because nobody dares to disobey the command of Boubacar dude. Now, why is it that nobody can disobey him? In 2019, this is a man that traveled all the way to Algeria, abducted a Spanish citizen, brought a Spanish citizen from Algeria to Mali, until they paid the ransom, mistreated the Spanish citizen, also abducted a Swiss and an Austrian citizen in Agadez. He was the direct commander of the Tango attack in Niger that led to the fall of several US Marines and the Special Forces of Niger. Ladies and gentlemen, he didn't stop there. Boubacar Goumoui has his operational ring in Algeria, in Libya, in Mali, in Niger. According to credible information, they said he doesn't want to operate in Burkina Faso because he has a feeling that Burkina Faso is not theater of operation enough. That was in the past, but we can't say of right now. But Boubacar Goumoui, his reputation lives ahead of him. One of the most scary situations that we've seen this man, Boubacar Goumoui, was when he led the direct execution of the president of the civil society in Menaka, called Issa Bakar. This particular execution made the civilian population try to revolt, but who dares when Boubacar Goumoui is speaking? But ladies and gentlemen, today marked the end of Boubacar Goumoui. For the past 3 weeks, the AES intelligence have been on him. They know he has been moving. And why has he been making these moves lately? Because there has been several orchestrated attacks on different DAESH cells, both their sleeper cell and their active assault team. This situation look a sort of organized demolition of the DAESH in the Sahel. And Boubacar was not just going to sit back and let his set just go down like that. Remember, he's the second in command, the direct next in command to Emir Issa Bari, the notorious DAESH leader in the Sahel province. So ladies and gentlemen, Boubacar Goumoui was not just going to sit aside. According to credible information, he was planning a major attack that was going to shake the Sahel to its roots, to make people know the bad around is still here. But ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, after so many levels of intelligence and different levels of surveillance, Boubacar Goumoui was actually spotted yesterday. After Boubacar Goumoui was spotted with two of his notorious commanders with 30 different elements, ladies and gentlemen, these technicals were having a meeting, a crucial meeting. And based on reports, this must have been one of the situations where Boubacar Goumoui was trying to orchestrate another major attack. But before this attack, he must see some of his Islamic things that he normally says before the combatants will prepare for war. Ladies and gentlemen, precise intelligence identified Boubacar Goumoui. And what the AES forces did next was to call for offensive drone vectors. Ladies and gentlemen, all these vectors that came, according to the information we had, there were more than 7. Fully loaded, ready to drop payloads with very heavy level of TNT. Ladies and gentlemen, according to the information we have, every escape route was probably blocked with the infantry. Then the vectors were in the sky. Now this was a stealth operation because anything that makes Boubacar Goumoui escape, the Sahel is going to be unbearable for anyone based on his reputation. His reputation goes ahead of him. And in 1 second, between the other world and this world, the TNTs were dropped. And that was the end of Boubacar Goumoui and his 2 commanders. Ladies and gentlemen, just to confirm that the man in question was Boubacar Goumoui, his DNA samples were taken. Ladies and gentlemen, the confirmation stated that this was the notorious AES Sahel Province Commander, Boubacar Goumoui. The information went ahead of him. Boubacar Goumoui is gone. The great leader of the DAESH is gone. And this is sending fear and chaos to the DAESH hierarchy. It's a question, who is going to take the command? Who is going to lead the new reigns? The forest of Sahel has become a no-go area for the DAESH member. Ladies and gentlemen, if so many believers, so many Islamic jihadists trust the operation of Boubacar Goumoui, and they see him go down like that, ladies and gentlemen, who do you think is going to want to take the next chain of command? Ladies and gentlemen, but before that, this is just another proof that the AES coalition forces have come to stay. They are operational and they got the credibility because this is the first way. Because this first confirmed kill is the best way to sign in, to announce that the big bad is around here. Ladies and gentlemen, let's proceed to the next information. We got on information that in the region of Bougouni, in Burkina Faso, very close to Ouagadougou, southeastern part of Ouagadougou, but not within Ouagadougou, Bougouni is the next province to the capital of Burkina Faso. Ladies and gentlemen, the Force Attack team were on move. You know who leads the Force Attack team? Captain Ouattara. They actually spotted a massive gathering of some terrorists. It was just a normal patrol for them, but they spotted what doesn't look sincere because they were seeing AK-74, they were seeing AK-47, men that were wielding guns. Ladies and gentlemen, different bikes were parked. It seems as if these men were about to lay a very decisive ambush. Now, I don't know if it's for stunt or for PR. But ladies and gentlemen, what do you think the enemy sources would have said? They hit Buguni next to Ouagadougou. They would have told you that the capital is under siege. Immediately, the Force Tech team discovered them. The battle ensued. It was an immediate contact from Watawa and his men. Ladies and gentlemen, in this special operation, according to precise intel, only one of the Force Tech team members incurred an injury. It was all she wrote. 30 of these great mujahideen were precisely executed. Thirty of this mujahideen were KIA. 15 motorcycles were recovered. Some of the AK-47 was damaged beyond repair, so it could not be recovered. So, ladies and gentlemen, here's the receipt. Now, in another close quarter ambush, the Burkinabe Armed Forces, that's the Rapid Intervention Brigade, together with the BIR, together with the VDP, under the command of a certain commander called Commander Bulldozer, they ambushed some Fulani militia. Precisely, they didn't give us the name of the sect. This Fulani militia, they were equally at the same time rustling cattle. Commander Bulldozer and his men actually waltzed and blitzed through this men. They were able to recover most of this cattle. Now, in another situation in Ivory Coast, ladies and gentlemen, the situation is escalating seriously. Initially, when you all see the video, you think something very, very diabolic is going down. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Ouattara and his juntas once again. Ladies and gentlemen, the people of Ivory Coast, from reports, they are telling Ouattara to go for the fourth term. They don't want it. It's undemocratic. It's not called for. It disobeys all the laws of the Constitution of Ivory Coast. But ladies and gentlemen, the model government of Ivory Coast claim they are in a democracy. They are in a constitutional regime. They belong to ECOWAS. They belong to UEMOA. Ladies and gentlemen, the report we're having shows something different. This is not a democracy. The people are saying you have defied the constitution by going for the fourth term. You can see the protest right there. It went from peaceful. At some point, the military compartment started using force on the civilian. I can show you some videos here. I can show you some image here. It's against the YouTube policy. Ladies and gentlemen, so much force was used. It was just a protest, a peaceful protest. You don't have to do this, Ouattara. You don't have to go for the next term. That's what the people are demanding. Let another person come in. We want a new government. A lot of civilians are complaining of so much fraud, impunity, subserviency to the French hierarchy. The French Special Forces are still present in Ivory Coast. But ladies and gentlemen, it's none of our business. It's the business of the people of Ivory Coast. But in this moment, the demands of the people of Ivory Coast is at the crossroad between being answered and not being answered. I hope the international community can see this. Instead of talking about the genocide in Nigeria, to an extent, there's a credibility to it. But they shouldn't say it's a genocide of Christians. It's both. Everybody's taking the heat. But the situation in Ivory Coast needs some international intervention. If the constitution says something, should it be defiled? Ladies and gentlemen, I'll leave you in the comment section to give me an answer to that. Because if we speak about Ivory Coast, they always say the Pan-Africanists are coming for democracy. But we can see in the video, tensions are escalating. Now let's pivot out to Madagascar, the beacon of democracy in Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, Madagascar has been under an iron-fisted rule for quite a while. The president of Madagascar, who some years ago naturalized himself as a French citizen, never heard anything like that before. The first man in the country naturalizing his citizenship to be more French than East Madagascar. Now, the Madagascar people for a while, I've never seen people so resilient. They've been calling, they've been asking, they've been demanding that they want a good government. They want a good democracy. Ladies and gentlemen, today was the turning point. The Madagascar people protested and 22 civilians were neutralized. We got the reports. A lot of people will tell you it was just a normal protest. People were used, the force was used, was employed, but people were not, no, people were touched. Ladies and gentlemen, we got the reports. And we have some of the bullets that was picked by passerbys on the streets. Ladies and gentlemen, you can see a picture here. We got a receipt always. After the 22 people were brought down and the Madagascar military discovered the people were not going to back down, the Madagascar military has now joined with the people.
C'est l'arrivée place de la démocratie là.
Ladies and gentlemen, in this moment of a serious escalation, the Madagascar people head for the presidential palace, where we wouldn't have been able to imagine the estimate of chaos they would have caused. Ladies and gentlemen, the Madagascar president ran in an emergency situation to the French embassy. Ladies and gentlemen, does it make any sense for the president of Madagascar to be taking refuge in the French embassy? It just shows the influence of France in Africa is falling by the day. Ladies and gentlemen, 22 people were neutralized, but the people have now overwhelmed the regime. We can see in the video here, the military of Madagascar is beginning to give comments.
Ni voaloateny dia mampiseho fiaraha-miony amin'ireo fianakaviana na moy ny akaiky azy noho izao zava-misy izao. Mankahery ihany koa ireo izay simba fananana no miatraketraky ny tsy mataotody. Potika ny firenena.
A lot of people said this could be a civilian-led regime change operation. Ladies and gentlemen, what do you think? This is where we'll draw the curtain for today. You already know it is. They will try to block off the story, but you can do us a favor. Hit the like button non-stop I hope we can get 1,000 likes. It can actually defy the logic of the algorithm. Ladies and gentlemen, you already know what it is. They can hide the story, but it's the job of Andre to bring you the story. It's your boy 72 Andre signing out. Enough said. Before I go, happy Sunday. Thanks for watching, and God bless you, my beloved family. I love you all. Much respect.